The sun blazed down on the bustling streets of downtown Lagos, where Raymond "Big Shaq" Okonjo's story began. At 35, he was known throughout the neighborhood as the cheerful owner of a small electronics repair shop, fixing everything from phones to laptops with skilled hands and a warm smile. His humble beginnings were far removed from the glittering world he would soon enter. Standing at 6 feet 4 inches, with broad shoulders and a gentle demeanor that contradicted his imposing frame, Big Shaq had earned his nickname not just from his size but from his big heart. He never turned away customers who couldn't afford to pay, often fixing their devices for free or accepting payment in installments. His shop, though modest, had become a community hub where people gathered to share stories and seek advice. Life had been simple but fulfilling for Big Shaq until that fateful rainy Tuesday when Mrs. Adebayo, one of his regular customers, walked in with her niece, Chioma Adeyemi. Chioma, fresh from her studies abroad, carried herself with an air of sophistication that immediately caught his attention. Unlike the other wealthy clients he occasionally served, there was something genuine about her smile, something that made his usually steady hands fumble with the phone he was repairing. Chioma, despite her family's vast business empire, had none of the pretension one might expect. She spoke to Big Shaq with genuine interest about his work, revealing her own passion for technology and innovation. Her eyes lit up as she shared her dreams of modernizing Nigerian businesses through digital transformation. Big Shaq found himself hanging on to every word, captivated not by her wealth, but by her vision and intelligence. Their first real conversation lasted hours, long after Mrs. Adebayo had left. They discussed everything from the latest tech trends to their favorite local dishes. Big Shaq discovered that beneath Chioma's polished exterior was a woman who could laugh heartily at his jokes and passionately debate the merits of different phone brands. She wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant and down-to-earth. What started as casual visits to his shop, with Chioma bringing various devices for repair, some suspiciously well-functioning, blossomed into friendship. Big Shaq found himself looking forward to their conversations, even as rumors began circulating in the neighborhood about the unlikely pair. Some whispered about the stark contrast in their social standings, while others praised Chioma for seeing beyond society's superficial barriers. The turning point came during a massive power outage that affected the city's business district. Chioma's family's company faced a crisis when their backup generators failed during a crucial international video conference. In desperation, she called Big Shaq. Without hesitation, he closed his shop and rushed to help, working through the night to jerry-rig a solution that saved the company from losing an important contract. That night, as they sat exhausted but triumphant in her father's empty office, something shifted between them. The boundaries of class and wealth seemed to dissolve in the dim emergency lights. Chioma saw not just the skilled technician but a man whose intelligence and dedication matched her own ambitions. Big Shaq, in turn, realized that his feelings for her had grown far beyond admiration. However, their budding relationship faced its first real test when news of their friendship reached Chioma's father, Chief Adeyemi. The successful business magnate had very different plans for his daughter's future, and they didn't include a humble electronics repair shop owner, regardless of his character. The whispers turned into concerned conversations, and soon Big Shaq found himself at the center of a story that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, wealth, and self-worth. As the first part of their story unfolds, nobody could have predicted the series of events that would follow, events that would test their relationship, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately reveal the true nature of love in a world obsessed with status and appearance. Big Shaq's simple life was about to become extraordinarily complicated, but he was about to prove that sometimes, the biggest risks yield the greatest rewards. The news of Big Shaq and Chioma's friendship spread through Lagos like wildfire, reaching the marble-floored offices of Chief Adeyemi's corporate headquarters. The chief, known for his shrewd business acumen and traditional values, called an emergency family meeting. Seated in his luxurious office, overlooking the city skyline, he made his disapproval crystal clear to his daughter. "You are the heir to the Adeyemi group of companies," he reminded Chioma, his voice stern but controlled. "Everything I've built over the past 30 years will be yours to lead. Do you understand what's at stake?" But Chioma, displaying the same determination that had made her excel in business school, stood her ground. She spoke of Big Shaq's intelligence, his innovative thinking, and his integrity, qualities that her father had always praised in business partners. Meanwhile, Big Shaq faced his own challenges. His childhood friend and shop assistant, Uncle Deli, warned him about the dangers of crossing social boundaries. "My friend, rich people's problems are different from our own," he cautioned, while helping Big Shaq close the shop one evening. "Their world will swallow you whole." But Big Shaq couldn't forget the connection he shared with Chioma, how she understood his dreams of expanding his business into a proper tech solutions company. The situation became more complicated when Chief Adeyemi decided to take matters into his own hands. He sent his personal assistant to Big Shaq's shop with an offer, a fully funded franchise of electronic stores across Nigeria, with one condition: Big Shaq would need to relocate to Abuja to oversee the operation. The implication was clear: accept the offer and leave Chioma's life forever. Big Shaq spent a sleepless night on his small balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. The offer was everything he dreamed of professionally, but the thought of never seeing Chioma again made his heart heavy. In the morning, he did something that surprised everyone. He respectfully declined the offer and instead submitted a business proposal to Chief Adeyemi's company. The proposal detailed plans for an innovative tech training center in Lagos, combining Big Shaq's practical expertise with modern education. He had stayed up all night preparing it, putting everything he knew about business and technology into those pages. It was his way of showing that he wasn't after Chioma's wealth. He had his own dreams and the capability to achieve them. Chioma, unaware of her father's offer, was fighting her own battles at the company. She deliberately took on challenging projects, working twice as hard to prove that her judgment about Big Shaq wasn't clouded by emotions. During a critical system failure at one of their major hotels, she insisted on bringing in Big Shaq's expertise instead of their usual expensive consultants. His practical solutions saved the company significant money, earning grudging respect from some board members. The dynamic between them shifted when Chioma discovered her father's attempted buyout. Instead of driving them apart, it brought them closer. They began meeting secretly at a small cafe owned by Mama Joy, a motherly figure who had known Big Shaq since he first set up his shop. She would serve them her special jollof rice and keep watch for any familiar faces from their social circles. During these meetings, they shared more than just their daily struggles. Big Shaq learned about the pressure Chioma faced as a woman expected to lead a major corporation in a male-dominated business world. Chioma discovered the depth of Big Shaq's ambition, how he'd taught himself programming late at night, using free online courses and borrowed textbooks. Their relationship deepened when Big Shaq finally shared his past with Chioma. He told her about losing his parents young, about raising his younger siblings through hard work and determination. His sister was now a nurse in London, his brother studying engineering in Canada, achievements that filled him with quiet pride. Chioma realized that Big Shaq understood responsibility and family legacy as well as she did. The turning point came during a charity event organized by the Adeyemi Foundation. Chioma had secretly arranged for Big Shaq to present his tech training center proposal to potential investors. His presentation, delivered in his simple but passionate style, caught the attention of several international donors. Even Chief Adeyemi, watching from the back of the room, couldn't deny the young man's potential. But just as things seemed to be looking up, a new challenge emerged. Photos of their secret meetings appeared in a local gossip blog, accompanied by scandalous accusations about their relationship. The story was picked up by larger news outlets, and suddenly, both Big Shaq and Chioma found themselves at the center of a public scandal that threatened not only their relationship but also their professional reputations. As the second part of their story draws to a close, both Big Shaq and Chioma realize that their greatest test isn't just proving their love to their families, but standing firm against a society that's determined to misunderstand and judge them. The question wasn't just whether love could cross social boundaries, but whether it could withstand the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny and judgment. The media storm hit harder than anyone expected. Big Shaq's once quiet electronics shop became a hotspot for curious onlookers and aggressive reporters. Some days, he could barely work, with photographers trying to snap pictures through his shop windows. His regular customers, mostly loyal community members, had to push through crowds just to get their phones fixed. The headlines were relentless: gold digger or true love? Electronics repairman schemes to win billionaire's daughter. Adeyemi empire under threat. Each morning brought new sensational stories, each more ridiculous than the last. The worst part wasn't the lies they printed about him, it was seeing Chioma's name dragged through the mud. But something unexpected happened. As the media tried to paint Big Shaq as an opportunist, his customers began speaking up. One by one, they shared stories of his generosity, how he'd fixed a widow's-only phone for free, how he'd stayed late helping a student recover precious dissertation files from a crashed laptop, how he'd set up a computer learning center for neighborhood kids in his spare time. Meanwhile, Chioma faced her own battles in the corporate world. Some board members questioned her judgment, suggesting that the scandal proved she wasn't ready to lead the company. But she handled their doubts with grace and professionalism, never letting her personal life affect her work performance. If anything, she worked harder, determined to prove that her feelings for Big Shaq didn't make her any less capable of running a business empire. The situation reached a boiling point when an anonymous source leaked private details about Big Shaq's family to the press. The stories about his struggles to raise his siblings after losing his parents were meant to paint him as a poverty-stricken opportunist, but they backfired spectacularly. Instead, people began seeing him as he truly was, a man who had faced adversity with dignity and emerged stronger. One evening, as Big Shaq was closing his shop, he received an unexpected visitor. It was Mrs. Adebayo, the aunt who had first introduced them. She hadn't come for phone repairs this time. Over hot tea in his small office, she revealed something that would change everything: the true story of how Chief Adeyemi had built his empire. He wasn't born into wealth either, she explained, stirring her tea thoughtfully. He started as a clerk in a small trading company. The only difference was that someone gave him a chance: his wife's father, Chioma's grandfather. The parallel wasn't lost on Big Shaq. Chief Adeyemi had once stood exactly where he stood now, facing the same prejudices and doubts. The revelation gave Big Shaq an idea. Instead of hiding from the media attention, he decided to use it to showcase his tech training center project. He invited local news stations to cover the free computer literacy classes he'd been running. The stories of young people learning valuable skills began to overshadow the scandal. Even some of Chief Adeyemi's business associates took notice, seeing potential in Big Shaq's vision for technological education in Nigeria. Chioma, watching all this unfold, felt her heart swell with pride. This was the man she'd fallen for, someone who could turn adversity into opportunity, not for personal gain, but to help others. She decided it was time to take a stand. During a crucial board meeting, she presented a comprehensive proposal to incorporate Big Shaq's tech training initiative into the company's corporate social responsibility program. The proposal was solid, backed by data showing the potential impact on youth employment and digital literacy in Nigeria. Even the most skeptical board members had to admit it made good business sense. As Chioma concluded her presentation, she addressed the elephant in the room: "Yes, I care deeply for this man. But I also recognize a visionary business opportunity. The question is, are we going to let unfounded prejudices blind us to an investment that could change thousands of lives?" Chief Adeyemi sat silently through the presentation, his expression unreadable. But later that evening, he made a rare personal visit to Big Shaq's shop. The street fell quiet as his luxury car pulled up. Inside the shop, the two men sat face to face for the first time since the scandal broke. "Tell me," Chief Adeyemi said, looking around the modest but well-organized shop, "if you had all the resources you needed, what would you do differently?" What followed was a 3-hour conversation that went far beyond business plans and profit margins. They talked about family, responsibility, and the weight of legacy, both carrying it and building it. As the third part of their story draws to a close, the dynamics begin to shift. The scandal that was meant to tear them apart had instead revealed the true character of everyone involved. Big Shaq proved himself not by defending against accusations, but by staying true to his values and vision. Chioma showed that love hadn't weakened her business acumen, it had strengthened her resolve to fight for what she believed in. But even as things seemed to be improving, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. An international tech company had taken interest in Big Shaq's training program, and their offer promised to test not just his relationship with Chioma, but everything he thought he knew about success and sacrifice. The sleek corporate jet landed at Lagos International Airport on a humid Wednesday morning. Representatives from Tech Global, one of the world's largest technology companies, had flown in specifically to meet Big Shaq. Their interest in his grassroots tech training program had caught everyone by surprise, including Chief Adeyemi, who found himself intrigued by this unexpected development. The meeting took place in a conference room at the Adeyemi Group headquarters, a location that sent a clear message about how things had changed. Just months ago, Big Shaq wouldn't have made it past the building's security desk. Now, he sat confidently at the massive mahogany table, presenting his vision to international executives in crisp suits. Tech Global's offer was extraordinary. They wanted to franchise Big Shaq's training program across Africa, with him as the face of their digital literacy initiative. The numbers they mentioned made his head spin: enough money to set up hundreds of training centers, enough to change countless lives. But there was a catch, and it was a big one. The position would require him to relocate to Silicon Valley for at least 2 years. "Think about it," the Tech Global CEO said, sliding across a contract that was thicker than any repair manual Big Shaq had ever seen. "You could impact millions, not just hundreds. This is the kind of opportunity that comes once in a lifetime." The words echoed in Big Shaq's mind as he left the meeting, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. That evening, he sat with Uncle Deli in his shop, sharing the news. His old friend listened quietly, then asked a simple question that cut to the heart of the matter: "My friend, is this your dream or their dream?" The question haunted Big Shaq as he tried to sleep that night, staring at his ceiling fan spinning lazily above. Meanwhile, Chioma faced her own dilemma. The news of Tech Global's interest had validated her faith in Big Shaq, but the prospect of a long-distance relationship terrified her. She knew better than anyone the value of this opportunity. It was exactly the kind of deal she would pursue as a businesswoman. Yet as a woman in love, the thought of Big Shaq leaving made her heart ache. The situation grew more complex when Chief Adeyemi made an unexpected move. During a private dinner with his daughter, he presented an alternative proposal. The Adeyemi Group would match Tech Global's offer, allowing Big Shaq to expand his program across Nigeria first, before taking it international. "Charity begins at home," the chief said, showing a warmth that had been absent in previous discussions about Big Shaq. The choice now facing Big Shaq seemed impossible. The Tech Global offer represented international recognition and resources beyond his wildest dreams. The Adeyemi proposal meant staying close to Chioma and his community, but possibly sacrificing the chance to impact millions. Every time he thought he'd made up his mind, doubt would creep in. His decision-making process was interrupted by an unexpected event. A fire broke out in his old neighborhood, destroying several shops and homes. Without hesitation, Big Shaq transformed his shop into a temporary shelter, setting up charging stations for people to contact their loved ones and using his business connections to coordinate relief efforts. What happened next surprised everyone. Tech-savvy youth from his training program used social media to spread the word, and soon donations and volunteers began pouring in. The Adeyemi Group provided corporate support, but it was the grassroots organization of the community that truly shone. Even Tech Global's representatives, still in Lagos, witnessed firsthand the real-world impact of Big Shaq's connection to his community. One evening, as Big Shaq helped distribute supplies to affected families, he found himself working alongside Chief Adeyemi, who had come to personally oversee his company's relief efforts. In that moment, as they passed out blankets and food packages, the barriers between them seemed to dissolve completely. "You know," Chief Adeyemi said, wiping sweat from his brow, "when I first started out, I had to choose between an international opportunity and staying local." He paused, helping an elderly woman with her packages. "I chose to stay, to build something here first. Some called me foolish, but I believed that understanding our local market was crucial before going global." The chief's words struck a chord with Big Shaq. He began to see that the choice wasn't just about business opportunities or even love, it was about purpose. His training program worked because he understood the specific needs of his community, the unique challenges they faced, and the solutions that would actually work in their context. As the fourth part of their story unfolds, Big Shaq realizes that success isn't just measured in numbers and international recognition. The fire incident had shown him something crucial. The real value of his work lay in its ability to create meaningful change in people's lives, one community at a time. But just as he was beginning to see his path forward clearly, another twist emerged. Tech Global, impressed by the community response to the fire, modified their offer. They proposed a hybrid model that would allow Big Shaq to stay in Nigeria while still partnering with them globally. This new development would force everyone, Big Shaq, Chioma, and Chief Adeyemi, to reconsider their positions and decide what they truly valued most. The modified offer from Tech Global created a buzz throughout Lagos's business community. The idea of a local success story going global while staying rooted in Nigerian soil captured people's imagination. Big Shaq found himself at the center of intense discussions about the future of tech education in Africa, a position he never imagined he'd occupy when he first started fixing phones in his tiny shop. However, the spotlight brought unexpected revelations. During a community meeting to discuss the expansion of his training program, an elderly man stood up. With tears in his eyes, he revealed that his grandson, who had been struggling to find work for years, had recently landed a job as a junior IT technician after completing Big Shaq's program. One by one, similar stories emerged, parents, grandparents, and young people sharing how the training center had changed their lives. These testimonials reached the ears of Chief Adeyemi through his vast network of business contacts. The chief, who had built his empire on understanding the pulse of the community, began to see Big Shaq in a new light. One morning, he invited both Big Shaq and Chioma to his private office for breakfast, a family tradition usually reserved for close business associates. Over steaming cups of coffee and fresh fruit, Chief Adeyemi shared a story he'd never told anyone outside the family. "Before I met Chioma's mother," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I was engaged to another woman. My future father-in-law offered me a chance to prove myself in business, but many thought I was marrying for money." He paused, looking at Big Shaq intently. "The engagement ended when I chose to pursue a risky business venture instead of joining my fiancé's family business. I lost the woman but found my true calling. Sometimes, the heart and business sense align in unexpected ways." The story struck a deep chord with Big Shaq. He realized that Chief Adeyemi's initial resistance might have stemmed from his own past experiences. The weight of legacy, the fear of wrong choices, the delicate balance between love and ambition, these were challenges the chief understood all too well. Meanwhile, Chioma was facing her own epiphany. Watching Big Shaq navigate these complex business negotiations while staying true to his values had deepened her feelings for him. During a late-night conversation at Mama Joy's cafe, she confessed something to him: "I always thought I needed to prove myself by making the company bigger, more international. But you've shown me that real impact happens when we understand and serve our community first." The hybrid model proposed by Tech Global began to take shape through intense negotiations. Big Shaq insisted on maintaining control over the curriculum, ensuring it remained relevant to local needs. He worked closely with both Tech Global's team and the Adeyemi Group to create a structure that would allow for global reach while preserving the program's grassroots effectiveness. During this period, an unexpected ally emerged, Uncle Deli, Big Shaq's longtime friend and shop assistant. His practical experience and deep understanding of the local community proved invaluable in adapting the training program for wider implementation. "You see," he told Big Shaq one evening as they closed the shop, "sometimes God's blessings come disguised as challenges." The turning point came during a joint presentation to potential investors. Big Shaq and Chioma stood side by side, presenting their vision for the future of tech education in Africa. Their different perspectives and experiences complemented each other perfectly, his practical knowledge and community connection balancing her corporate expertise and global outlook. Chief Adeyemi, watching from the back of the room, saw something that moved him deeply. It wasn't just their professional compatibility or the soundness of their business plan. It was the way they supported each other, the natural rhythm of their partnership, the genuine respect they showed for each other's strengths. After the presentation, the chief made a decision that would change everything. He called a private meeting with his board of directors, Tech Global's representatives, and Big Shaq. The proposal he laid out was bold, a three-way partnership between Tech Global, the Adeyemi Group, and Big Shaq's organization, with each bringing their unique strengths to the table. But the chief's most surprising move came at the end of the meeting. He turned to Big Shaq and said, "Before we proceed, there's something more important we need to discuss, not as businessmen, but as family." The room fell silent as Chief Adeyemi stood up and asked Big Shaq to follow him to his private office. The walk to the office felt like the longest of Big Shaq's life. His mind raced with possibilities, both hopeful and fearful. As they entered the luxurious space, Chief Adeyemi didn't sit behind his imposing desk as usual. Instead, he led Big Shaq to a comfortable seating area where family photos lined the walls. As the fifth part of their story closes, we find Big Shaq standing at another crossroads. The chief's words hung in the air, promising a conversation that would go beyond business dealings and corporate partnerships. Whatever was about to be discussed in that office would not just affect Big Shaq's professional future, but possibly change his personal life forever. The love story that had started in a humble electronics shop was about to take another unexpected turn. Inside Chief Adeyemi's private office, time seemed to stand still. The usual sounds of the bustling corporate headquarters faded away as the chief walked over to a vintage cabinet and pulled out 2 crystal glasses and a bottle of aged palm wine. "This was served at my wedding," he said, carefully pouring the drink. "I've saved it for truly special occasions." The gesture's significance wasn't lost on Big Shaq. As they sat facing each other, surrounded by decades of family history captured in photographs, Chief Adeyemi began to speak about legacy, not the kind written in corporate documents, but the kind passed down through generations. "When I first heard about you and Chioma," the chief began, his voice carrying years of wisdom, "I saw only what I feared, someone who might destroy everything I'd built. But now I see what my daughter saw from the beginning, someone who builds, who creates, who lifts others up." He paused, taking a sip from his glass. "Tell me, what are your intentions with my daughter?" The question hung in the air, but Big Shaq didn't hesitate. He spoke from his heart, describing not just his love for Chioma but his vision for their future together. He talked about how they complemented each other, how their different backgrounds brought unique strengths to their relationship, and how together they could build something greater than either could achieve alone. As Big Shaq spoke, Chief Adeyemi's expression softened. He walked to his desk and pulled out a small, worn leather journal. "This was my father-in-law's business diary," he explained. "He wrote about taking a chance on me, about seeing potential where others saw risk. I've kept it all these years as a reminder to look beyond the surface." He handed the journal to Big Shaq. I think he would have liked you." Meanwhile, unaware of this conversation, Chioma was in the middle of her own significant moment. She had gathered the women in her life, her mother, aunt, and Mama Joy, at her favorite childhood restaurant. Over plates of traditional Nigerian cuisine, she shared her dreams and fears about the future. These women, who had watched her grow from a privileged child into a capable businesswoman, now saw her transform once more, into someone deeply in love yet still fiercely independent. Back in the chief's office, the conversation took an unexpected turn. Chief Adeyemi revealed that his own marriage had faced similar challenges, two strong personalities learning to build a life together while maintaining their individual identities. "The secret," he shared, "wasn't in changing who we were, but in growing together, supporting each other's dreams while creating new ones together." The chief then did something unprecedented. He invited Big Shaq to join him for the upcoming annual family retreat at their coastal villa. This invitation wasn't just about spending time with the family, it was a chance for Big Shaq to understand the weight of the legacy he would be stepping into. However, just as things seemed to be falling perfectly into place, a new challenge emerged. News leaked about the three-way partnership between Tech Global, the Adeyemi Group, and Big Shaq's organization. Competitors, sensing a threat to their interests, began spreading rumors about insider trading and preferential treatment. Some suggested that the entire relationship between Big Shaq and Chioma was a calculated business move. The allegations reached the Securities and Exchange Commission, triggering an investigation into the partnership's formation. Big Shaq found himself facing scrutiny not just about his relationship with Chioma, but about every business decision he'd ever made. His past was examined under a microscope, every free repair he'd done, every favor he'd granted, was now being questioned. In the midst of this crisis, something remarkable happened. The community he had served for years rallied around him. People began sharing their stories on social media, countless tales of Big Shaq's generosity and integrity. Former students from his training program organized peaceful demonstrations supporting him. Even competing business owners came forward to testify about his character. Chioma watched all this unfold with a mixture of pride and concern. She knew the corporate world well enough to understand that such allegations, even if proven false, could leave lasting damage. One evening, as they sat in his shop after hours, their special place where everything had begun, she made a suggestion that surprised him. "Let's get married now," she said, her voice firm with conviction. "Not because of the investigation or what people are saying, but because waiting serves no purpose. We know what we want, and we're stronger together." The proposition wasn't just about love, it was a statement to the world about their commitment to each other and their shared vision. Big Shaq was stunned by her directness, but before he could respond, they were interrupted by an urgent call. The investigation had uncovered something unexpected, documents that would not only clear Big Shaq's name but expose the real motivations behind the allegations. As the sixth part of their story draws to a close, Big Shaq finds himself at another crossroads. Chioma's proposal hangs in the air, the investigation continues to unfold, and the chief's invitation to the family retreat looms ahead. The path forward would require not just love and business acumen, but the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. The coastal villa stood majestically against the setting sun as Big Shaq arrived for the family retreat. The investigation was still ongoing, but Chief Adeyemi had insisted that family traditions couldn't wait for business troubles to resolve. As Big Shaq stepped out of the car, carrying Chioma's impromptu proposal in his heart, he knew this weekend would change everything. The documents uncovered during the investigation had revealed a conspiracy by a rival tech education company. They had orchestrated the allegations, hoping to destroy the partnership before it could transform Nigeria's tech landscape. But their plan had backfired spectacularly. The evidence didn't just clear Big Shaq, it showed how deeply his training program had already impacted the community. The family retreat began with a traditional dinner where generations of Adeyemis gathered to share stories and celebrate their heritage. Big Shaq listened intently as elderly aunts recounted tales of the family's humble beginnings, of struggles and triumphs that shaped their legacy. He realized that this family's story wasn't so different from his own. They too understood the value of hard work and perseverance. During the retreat, Chief Adeyemi took Big Shaq on a walk along the private beach. The sound of waves provided a peaceful backdrop as they discussed the future. "You know," the chief said, picking up a seashell, "when I built this villa, many thought it was excessive. But I wanted a place where my family could always come together, where our bonds could grow stronger." He handed the shell to Big Shaq. "Family isn't just about blood, it's about who we choose to build our future with." Meanwhile, Chioma was having her own meaningful conversation with her mother in the villa's garden. She shared her spontaneous proposal to Big Shaq, expecting resistance. Instead, her mother surprised her by pulling out an old photograph, a young Chief Adeyemi and herself, sitting in a modest apartment, dreaming of their future. "Love that's built on shared values and mutual respect," she said, "that's the foundation that can weather any storm." The investigation's conclusion came during the retreat, delivered by a phone call that echoed through the villa's halls. The Securities and Exchange Commission had not only cleared all parties of wrongdoing but praised the transparency of their partnership structure. The rival companies' schemes were exposed, and their desperate attempts to maintain their market position through underhanded tactics became public knowledge. But the most significant moment of the retreat came during a family gathering around the bonfire on the beach. Big Shaq stood up, his heart pounding but his voice steady. He addressed the entire family, speaking about his journey from a simple electronics repair shop to standing there among them. Then, to everyone's surprise, including Chioma's, he pulled out a small box. "You asked me to marry you in our shop, where our story began," he said, kneeling before Chioma in the firelight. "Now, in front of your family, our family, I'm asking you the same question." The ring wasn't expensive or flashy, but it carried deep meaning. He had designed it himself, working with a local artisan to combine traditional Nigerian patterns with modern elements, symbolizing their unique union. Chioma's "yes" was drowned out by the family's cheers and celebratory songs. Chief Adeyemi, trying to maintain his composure, raised his glass in a toast. "To love that builds, to partnerships that lift us all, and to a future that honors both tradition and progress." The news of their engagement spread quickly, but this time, the media coverage was different. Instead of scandal and speculation, the stories focused on the impact their partnership had already achieved. The training program had expanded to 5 new locations, creating jobs and opportunities throughout Lagos. Tech Global's involvement had brought international attention to Nigeria's growing tech sector, and the Adeyemi Group's support had ensured that the benefits reached those who needed them most. Back in his shop, now transformed into the headquarters of their educational initiative, Big Shaq found a moment of quiet reflection. Uncle Deli joined him, bringing 2 cups of hot tea. "You know," the old friend said, "when you first opened this shop, I worried you were limiting yourself. Now I see you weren't just fixing devices, you were building bridges." The wedding preparations began to take shape, blending traditions with modern elements, much like their partnership. But rather than planning an extravagant society event, they decided to make their celebration meaningful to the community that had supported them. They announced that a portion of their wedding budget would go toward scholarships for underprivileged students in their training program. As the 7th part of their story unfolds, the pieces of their future begin to fall into place. The investigation's resolution had cleared the way for their partnership to flourish, both in business and in life. Their engagement symbolized not just the union of 2 people, but the bridging of worlds that once seemed impossibly far apart. Yet, as they would soon discover, their greatest challenge lay not in the obstacles they had overcome, but in the responsibilities that came with their success. The spotlight on their upcoming wedding would bring unexpected pressures, and their commitment to maintaining their values while meeting society's expectations would be tested in ways they never imagined. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the Lagos sky painted in brilliant shades of orange and gold. The venue wasn't a fancy hotel or exclusive resort, but the sprawling community center that had grown from Big Shaq's original training program. The choice had raised eyebrows in certain social circles, but to the couple, it perfectly represented everything their journey stood for. The preparations had taken an unexpected turn when their students insisted on contributing their skills. The Tech Training Center's graduates had created a custom digital guest management system, while others had set up live streaming for community members who couldn't attend in person. Even the decoration combined traditional Nigerian craftsmanship with modern technology, strings of lights programmed to dance in patterns telling their love story. That morning, as Big Shaq stood in his old shop getting ready, Uncle Deli adjusted his bow tie with trembling hands. "Remember when you used to fix phones here?" his old friend said, gesturing around the space that had launched everything. "Now look at you, fixing lives instead." The shop had been transformed for the day, serving as the groom's preparation area, but its humble beginnings remained evident in the worn counter and familiar tools still hanging on the walls. Meanwhile, at the Adeyemi mansion, Chioma was surrounded by women from both families. As her mother fastened a string of pearls around her neck, a family heirloom worn by 3 generations of Adeyemi brides, Mama Joy arrived with a surprise. The motherly cafe owner had gathered messages from hundreds of community members whose lives had been touched by the couple. Each note was handwritten on traditional Nigerian fabric, sewn together into a stunning wall hanging that would later become the backdrop for their vows. Chief Adeyemi's transformation was perhaps the most remarkable of all. The man who had once opposed their relationship now moved through the preparations with tears of joy barely contained. He had insisted on maintaining certain high society traditions, but also embraced the couple's vision of a wedding that celebrated community as much as family. The ceremony itself was a beautiful blend of worlds. Traditional Nigerian customs merged seamlessly with modern elements, much like the couple themselves. The arrival of Tech Global's executives alongside local community leaders demonstrated how far their influence had spread. But the most touching moment came during the exchange of vows. Instead of traditional promises, Big Shaq and Chioma each shared stories of their journey. Big Shaq spoke about the first time Chioma walked into his shop, not just as a customer but as someone who saw his potential. Chioma recalled how his dedication to helping others had shown her a different kind of success than the one she'd been raised to pursue. The reception that followed was a true celebration of community. Tables mixed corporate executives with local shop owners, international tech experts with students from the training program. The dance floor saw traditional Nigerian dances performed alongside modern moves, with both families joining in regardless of their background. A surprise announcement during the reception captured the spirit of their union perfectly. Chief Adeyemi, Big Shaq, and Tech Global's CEO unveiled the establishment of the Okonjo Adeyemi Technology Foundation. The foundation would focus on expanding tech education across Africa, with a particular emphasis on reaching underserved communities. The first project? Converting Big Shaq's original shop into a museum and innovation hub, preserving the story of where it all began. But the most meaningful moment came later in the evening when the newlyweds slipped away from the celebration to visit Big Shaq's original shop one last time before it would be transformed. In the quiet of the familiar space, surrounded by the tools and memories that had shaped their journey, they shared their private dreams for the future. "You know," Chioma said, running her hand along the counter where they first met, "some people thought I was settling for less when I fell in love with you. They couldn't see that I was actually reaching higher, choosing a different kind of wealth, a different kind of success." Big Shaq pulled her close, their wedding attire slightly wrinkled from the day's celebrations. "And they thought I was trying to climb the social ladder," he chuckled. "They didn't understand that true elevation comes from lifting others as you rise." News of their wedding spread far beyond Lagos, but not for the reasons society gossips had once predicted. International business publications praised it as a model of social innovation, where personal love story had transformed into a movement for community development. Local papers celebrated it as a testament to Nigerian ingenuity and tradition, proving that progress didn't have to mean losing cultural values. As the celebration wound down, with dawn approaching and the last dancers swaying under the stars, Big Shaq and Chioma stood at the entrance of the community center. They watched as their families, once so divided by social status, now chatted and laughed together like old friends. Their students, some now successful tech entrepreneurs themselves, were already planning the next phase of the training program's expansion. The final surprise of the evening came from Uncle Deli, who had been mysteriously absent for part of the reception. He returned with a group of students who had secretly created a digital archive of Big Shaq's journey, from his first day opening the repair shop to the wedding itself. The presentation ended with a vision of the future, architectural plans for the innovation hub, classrooms filled with eager learners, and a message of hope for generations to come. As their wedding story comes to a close, Big Shaq and Chioma's journey represents more than just a marriage of two people. It symbolizes the union of tradition and innovation, of humble beginnings and grand aspirations, of individual success and community prosperity. Their love story, which began in a simple electronics repair shop, had grown into a legacy that would continue to transform lives long after their wedding day. The headlines that once questioned their relationship now celebrated their vision. But for Big Shaq and Chioma, their greatest achievement wasn't in proving the skeptics wrong, it was in staying true to their values while building something larger than themselves. Their wedding wasn't just the end of one chapter but the beginning of a new story, one that would continue to inspire others to believe in the power of love to bridge divides and create positive change.